We talk about the seal book. And then we got the first seal. And he's very gracious. Haley is very gracious. He talks about the futuristic one. This may symbolize Christ coming out to conquer the world. Near the end of the book, another white horse appears whose rider is plainly stated to be Christ. But there seems to be differences in this white horse, okay? Yeah. They may be the same, the one starting, the other finishing. But this horseman may symbolize not Christ, but the world power under which Christ was starting his work. Okay? This, I think, is what it is.
Yeah.
The statement at the end of the 7 seals and the 7 trumpets, the kingdom of the world has become the kingdom of our Lord and of his Christ, may imply that the kingdom of the world was in the saddle at the start. Okay? And then he talks about there's another, it could be the beginning of the reign of Antichrist. But we've talked about why that really doesn't seem to fit very well at all.
Right.
Okay? If this horseman represents the world power under which Christ was starting his work, it is indeed a very accurate picture of that power. Okay? The Roman Empire, the mightiest government that had thus far been in the world, most of the known world under its control, was at that time just entering its golden age. And this we know from history. There's a guy who wrote The Rise and Fall, or Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire, Gibbon, I think is the name of it. Talks about a lot of how this worked and the emperors that went in there.
Yeah.
The historian Gibbon, it says it even right here. The historian Gibbon calls the reigns of the 5 emperors, Nerva, Trajan, Hadrian, Antoninus, Pius, and Marcus Aurelius, AD 96 to AD 180, the happiest and most prosperous period in the entire history of the human race.
So it started the very year that John had
the very year.
Okay,
very year. Written from a total different perspective here, you know? So then we have, if the white horse of the first seal represents Christ, then this red horse of the second seal and the black horse of the pale horse of the third and fourth seals may represent the woes that scourge mankind on account of their rejection of Christ. It's interesting, as we get into trumpets, we will actually talk about woes. There are actually 3 woes.
Yeah.
If the first seal refers to the Roman Empire in its golden age, then again it would seem these 3 seals, war, famine, and death, must refer to the following period in the same empire. And indeed, it's a perfect fit.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay? And again, it fits the picture exactly. In the century between AD 200 and AD 300, over 50 different pretenders claimed the throne of the Roman Empire. And instead of having strong rulers on the throne, they were fighting among themselves as to who was going to be the emperor. It was just a time of conflict. It's a horrible time. And through their wars, it was 100 years of civil war. I mean, this whole empire had been built up, and then they just trashed themselves. By the way, that's what weakened him so much, so that all the other people could come in, the Vandals, the Visigoths, all the outsides could actually come in. Rome had weakened himself so badly during this period of time. Let's see. And then what always follows, okay, so let's see. Instead of having strong rulers to rule on the throne, sit on the throne, they were fighting amongst themselves as to who would be emperor. And through their wars, and what always follows prolonged war, there was famine, pestilence, and death. The Roman Empire in that century lost more than half of its population. Okay? And was started on its road to ruin. The third seal, the black horse. Famine, which is a result of war. Balance means scales. Food would be scarce, sold by weight. Penny, not our penny, but was then an ordinary day's wages. Yeah. But a measure of wheat was about a quart. Ordinarily then 15 to 20 measures could be had for a penny. Oil and wine, don't hurt it, might indicate that basically luxuries were plentiful, but actual foodstuffs. And that's indeed what happened during the time of that period, okay? And which would result. The fourth seal, the pale horse, death, the result of war and famine. The fourth part of the earth was killed, in which wild beasts aided. This is in verse 6-8. Talks about it. I don't know if you want to go back over that or not. In verses 6-8. The Roman Empire in its century of civil war, AD 200 to AD 300, referred to under the second seal, suffered colossal loss in population, followed by an enormous increase of wild animals tearing people up in the city. They're right in the cities themselves.
Just like what it says there, doesn't it say that?
Yeah.
Yep.
The animals, and that's exactly what. And that happens a lot. There's a reason why in ancient civilizations cities were walled to protect them from wild animals.
Oh yeah.
Well, that actually happened here. There weren't people enough to stem the tide of it.
And it's interesting now. A little clip here. The bride of Christ. The first thing we see with her, she has a wall up, and the beast in this book, the true beasts, or the beasts of the earth and the beasts of the sea, now we need to be separated from those beasts, so they don't devour us.
Good point. That's actually very good.
There's physical beasts here, but there's also spiritual beasts later.
Well, first comes the natural, then comes the spiritual.
Exactly. Yeah, so it works out pretty well.
Yeah. So those are like real, and most historicists have believed this for centuries. In fact, many of them, starting from Irenaeus, who was barely, he was barely after John was expounding on Revelation, would talk about some of these things. They talked about the fact that the Roman Empire was going to have to break up. Yeah. They talked about the man of sin was going to have to rise up after Rome was taken out of the way. Those kinds of things. All of those were talked about before they ever happened, and some of these things seem to be indicated in that. Okay. Now, the fifth seal, a vision of the souls of the martyrs. Yeah. This seems to symbolize persecution for the church. Already there had been many thousands of martyrs from the persecutions of Nero and Domitian, and unnumbered thousands more were to come. Now, notice this, 80, 200 to 300. Look at the time period of this, okay? The most severe persecution, there were 10 persecutions. The most severe one was right about 300 to 313. He said, wait a little while longer. Till the ones, and this is exactly
and that's what it
happened.
says right here. Yeah,
wait a little while longer, and then the time was over. Okay, then what happens is the church becomes a state religion.
Yeah,
and there was no more persecution. This is where the devil was thrown into the bottomless pit. He was cast down. This seems to symbolize persecution for the church. It did for a little while. Already there, as I said, there have been a lot from the persecutions of Nero and Domitian, and unnumbered thousands more were to come. There were 10 imperial persecutions of the church from Nero, AD 64, to Diocletian, AD 305. Isn't that interesting?
It is interesting.
AD 200 to 300. Now we're in the fifth seal.
Yep.
Bam. But it's beginning now. It's going to start moving out a little farther. Yep. The vision may also be a prophetic hint of the papal persecutions of the Middle Ages, and perhaps also the persecutions of the tribulation period of the last days. This is Haley. I don't agree with the last statement. Actually, I don't really agree too much with even the second to last statement. But as a handbook, it's fair to put all different versions of it. I think it's good to do that, and we allude to these things as well. Because you see, not everything that futurism talks about is wrong. Some things are still future. Okay. Not everything that some of these the spiritualists talk about necessarily are wrong. But my point is that primarily it's a perfect fit for the Roman persecutions, the rise and fall, and then the persecutions of the saints right before they're ready to change. And what's interesting then we have a sixth seal open up, and this is what he says in Hales. Revolution, upheaval, convulsion, consternation. Sun is darkened, stars are falling, heavens rolled up, mountains and islands are removed, kings and peoples are frightened. In some respects, similar to the description of the Battle of Armageddon, which it may be a preliminary hint. Jesus used similar language, but so had Isaiah, predicting the fall of Babylon. What we're getting here, stars falling. Look, stars don't fall out of heaven. Sorry, shooting stars are not literal stars. For those astronomers out there, stars cannot fall out of heaven. Okay? What can happen is spiritual rulers. We already found the angels are called stars. They are in the book of Job as well. The book of Judges, stars are alluded to. Stars are talked about as angels. All right? And the political powers,